$80 annual fee. That's really reasonable. I don't see a problem with that. My question is, with that $80 annual fee, are you going to propose any time down the line, such as a family annual fee, or as if say in your family you have 4 or 5 people riding ATVs, are you going to, is that $80 going to include them 4 or 5 people in your family, or is each individual going to have to pay a fee to ride? And camping aspect, she just asked the question, so we're all hooked up there.
At this point, we have not looked at family passes. I think that as we look at facilities across the country, that some do provide family passes that you pay, you know, like you buy 3 passes and get the 4th one in your family, or something like that. And we haven't addressed it specifically in the business plan, but I would think that at some point there's a likelihood that something like that would happen.
On that $80 pass, the case in point, to ride at Trevorton, so we didn't get nailed, we had to go to Reading Coal Company and buy our permit because they were going to pull our vehicle. They charged us $100 for that permit. That's annual. But the facilities, you know, we got over there, so I just want to touch base with that. Thank you.
Have you thought about, in your buffered areas, allowing equestrians and bikers and hikers to use those areas? You have. Okay. And the crossings, there's several crossings where equestrians are going to be crossing areas where the ATVs are. Who's going to police those, or is there going to be a rule the ATVs shut down versus a crossing?
That'll be part of the education process when visitors come in and they're riding on the Eastern Reserve. You need to understand that there will be other non-motorized uses occurring there. Please respect those. Then there's the standard trail etiquette for you know, hikers and bikers, and motorized uses going to equestrian uses, and that will be enforced in the project.
Hi. This business model you spoke about at the beginning, of hybrid business model, do you have working examples of, like, because you did talk about the club with the volunteering and those things, do you have some working examples to compare to say that this is something that we can do?
The question was, we have examples that we can compare to of the hybrid business model, and actually the Rock Run facility that operates in the central part of the state is somewhat similar, except that it's an authority. It's the Cambria County Conservation Authority that owns the property, and they coordinate with a local nonprofit, and they're dealing with the same kinds of issues of having to coordinate back and forth because of the environmental concerns that are on the property, and acid mine ponds, and dealing with all of those kind of environmental concerns. And they continue to be successful at this point, working back and forth between the 2 organizations.
Hi. Hi, a couple quick questions since nobody else is waiting in line. You mentioned the next step has to do with when the county proceeds. Can you go into a little more detail? Is there a vote? Is there, you know, what part of that is coming? And then the second half of that is, how can we encourage them to hurry up with that? And then I got a third too. The third would be, we mentioned a lot of in-kind donations. One way to encourage some of that in-kind is in exchange, you know, work for a half day, trail ride for a half day. Is there plans to do that kind of stuff?
In terms of, I'll answer the process, and Bob will answer the volunteer issue. In terms of the process, the county commissioners, after tonight's meeting, will go back. We'll finalize the plan based on the input that we received tonight. That will be presented to the county. The county commissioners will need to take action on that plan. Will they adopt that plan as the guiding document that guides the future of these properties? And at that point, that is the action that sets the process in motion, in addition to applying for the grants and the funding for the development of the facility as they move forward. So those are the next steps.
And in terms of the volunteer issue, I guess the first answer is that, first thing is that we would hope that all of your group that's coming in to work on the site already owns their own annual pass. And so that we wouldn't have to worry about that. But anybody that doesn't, I think that we would certainly expect that there's a good opportunity for that kind of shared services for use of the work half a day, play half a day. Call Pat Mack, he'll motivate anybody.
I'd like to suggest that you open sales for your annual pass immediately. If it's going to open in 2/12 or 2/13, mark it as a first-year pass, and that would give you some initial money to start with. I mean, if you're selling them, I'll buy one right now.
I don't turn away anybody who's got money, except it's not my project.
I'd just like to say I've been here to all three of the meetings, and I think this is a great thing. I really do. It looks like it's really come together nice, and you've taken a look at everybody's, whatever adventure they want to do outdoors. The question I had was about the hunting, and I saw that you're going to have it closed mid-November to early January, but you said about being, except for Sundays, would that be, now that Sundays would be open. Now my question is, what about the new proposal at the state level about maybe opening hunting for Sundays? How's that going to affect that?
If the proposal that's now, I don't know that it's gone to state legislature yet, but in the proposal that the Game Commission or the hunting community has come forth about open hunting season on Sundays, if the hunting season becomes a Sunday date, then I would anticipate that there wouldn't be riding on Sundays either.
If we came for a day and paid our $25 and we really liked what we see, could we, at the end of that day, turn that $25 into our annual pass?
That's a good question. I think we haven't really got to that level of detail in the planning process, but I think a case can be made that if you come and you try it out and you pay your $25 and decide then you want to buy the 80, I can't imagine. Again, as a business person, I don't turn anybody away that has money in hand. So.
I don't have a question, I have a quick comment. As you can see, I'm a very old man. Back in 1950, there was a slogan in this area, Shamokin, come to Shamokin, City of Opportunity. I don't know, maybe some of you remember that. It was on the billboards and on the buses. Since that time, I look back and I see individuals in here who have tried to bring industry to our area to some success. But what sickens me is I stood here, maybe over the middle school 10 years ago, and we had the opportunity to get a federal penitentiary here. And because there was minor opposition, we didn't get that federal penitentiary. That would have brought us millions of dollars every year. We cannot afford to lose this. These people have put a lot of effort into this, and whether the fees are $80 or $120, we have got to take advantage of this opportunity. As you know, our federal government right now are deciding in Washington, D.C. and Harrisburg where they're cutting. The free lunch is over. In today's paper, welfare is being cut. I taught school in this district for 20 years. We always got big, major grants because of our, low income. Those days are gone. We have to stand on our own feet. We have to make some money. We have to work with these folks. We have to cooperate, whatever it takes. The national debt is $13 trillion in debt. We don't want the Chinese coming over here, our bankruptcy, and owning the whaleback. We want to sell the Chinese tickets to see the whaleback. So we have to cooperate.
I'll start off with a few comments, and I have a question at the end. My name is Dave Miller. I'm the president of the Lehigh Valley ATV Association. I think the support that we have for this project is obvious from the fact that not only am I here tonight, my vice president and our immediate which I described the potential for this off-highway vehicle park as being revolutionary. And I still feel that way. I've had an opportunity to ride it about 3 more times to gain a little bit better appreciation for the type of terrain that's available, the opportunities that are in existence for off-highway vehicle riders of all types. And this is going to be a huge attraction. Things that are new can be a little bit scary sometimes. And I think what we're seeing here is a real solid foundation of planning by the county folks and the organizations involved. You only have to look at the success of the OHV parks in some of the surrounding states to look at the potential that it has for the economy here. I really appreciate the fact that you've taken time to explain how you expect to cover the expenses for it. We're going to be here as one of the 60-some volunteer organizations to help maintain the trails and the marking and so forth. We have a 25-year history with the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources in trail maintenance and development already. The question that I have pertains directly then to a DCNR program and how you plan to structure your trails. And right now it appears as though you have off-road vehicle trails and then ATV trails that are kind of separated right now at the planning stage. DCNR uses a hierarchy system where if there's a trail that's an ATV trail, it can also be used by equestrians and mountain bikers. There's sort of a succession, a downward succession involved. Is that going to apply to the trails that are going to be marked here in the AOAA?
We will have both. We will have dedicated trails for specific uses as well as the multi-use trails for, so you have the opportunity if you want to ride your ATV on a full-size trail or if you want to ride your ATV on a dedicated track. And throughout all the planning, it all responds and follows the DCNR guidelines for the trail development, both motorized and non-motorized.
I have one other question. I keep hearing this being compared to places like Hatfield, McCoy, and what I'm wondering is, with Hatfield, McCoy, you have maybe 5 or 6 different counties, probably 3 times the acreage. When do you think this project will reach that scale?
Hatfield McCoy is a system that would end up having multiple locations like we have in Northumberland County. And so as a facility that's on a much broader range, as they grow, they take from one location that's similar to this to go to the next, and they have lots of connecting trails. The opportunity for Northumberland County to get to a system like that really is dependent on what happens with surrounding facilities and properties and opportunities. On the other hand, the expectation is that with the number of miles of trail that are available as we start and the number of miles of trail that can be available long-term, that we would certainly get to a level of, in terms of trail mileage and opportunities, that we can, within even a 5-year period, can be at a point where places like Black Mountain in Kentucky is, and some of those. One of the things you need to understand is that one of the differences between Northumberland and some of the other sites that we talk about is that Northumberland is a localized facility. It's 6,000 acres that has a series of trails on it. Some of the other sites, Hatfield, McCoy included, travel much further distances, getting the same mileage of trails, but connecting one community to another. And so there's a little difference in the way that they operate, but the systems in the end, in terms of revenues produced and the economic impact, are very similar.
In the Hatfield-McCoy system, the local towns allow ATVs on the roads to access the local businesses, restaurants, etc. Have you given any thought to that as it applies to this situation?
Yes, we met, I guess, 2 times or 3 times with local officials and had discussions about that, and some Some local officials are open to that and as a municipal entity, and others were not. One of the issues that we face immediately is that there's a lot of illegal riding taking place on municipal roads right now that has to be brought under control before any of the municipalities would consider opening for legal riding on the roads. And that has begun to be addressed already with the local police departments starting to address and trying to get the illegal riding on roads taken care of. But you know, we've talked with local officials, and I think that some of the municipalities are open to it. I think as businesses start to develop, the one slide that you saw here where I talked about economic development was a series of ATVs going through McDonald's drive-through, and that's really, you know, that's a possibility if we want to do that, and I really, you know, have to defer back to the individual municipalities to make that decision.
I just had a question. I know you just mentioned about connecting all the local communities. One of the things I wanted to double check with you on, and you mentioned about economic development, and that Hatfield-McCoy, and that this system was actually different because Hatfield-McCoy was more regionalized as opposed to Northumberland County is more localized. That's not necessarily the case. In fact, we've been working on the Lower Anthracite Regional Heritage Trail, which is actually connecting the Schuylkill River Valley system all the way out to the Susquehanna Greenway, and connecting all the communities. One of the questions that I have is because we've been working with one of the contractors, our master plan and feasibility study for that is actually due to be completed here shortly, and we just want to make sure that the different activities that are involved with the two projects are coordinated. Because the last I heard from our contractor, as of even today, that they hadn't had any word back from you folks. So we want to make sure that the folks that are coming in, that are riding or biking in off the Schuylkill River Valley system, going in towards the Susquehanna Greenway, they're all coordinated, as well as your Greenway Master Plan and Feasibility Study, that they're all coordinated too. And as far as what you were just discussing, as far as the municipalities, I mean, I know I worked at a district magistrate's office when I was in college, and I know there's a lot of expense that actually goes into, right now, a lot of the municipalities are hurting for funding. Everybody's struggling for funding. If there's going to be an increased usage on these properties, and there already has been, I mean, I've received some phone calls from various folks on the Lower Anthracite Regional Heritage Trail that we're working on, and they've actually confused it with your project, and they're saying, well, are you guys going to be doing ATV riding on the project, and how is that going to impact with the equestrian areas and the bikers and the hikers? We want to make sure that there is a separation between the two, and there's a differentiation, and that if there is, right now there's already, because of all the advertisement and everything, and there's a lot out there on the web, you've actually received a lot of additional riders that are coming into the area illegally right now, just from the fact that because of all the advertisement and everything going on, come to Northumberland County, there have been a lot of people that have actually been coming into the county, and there's a couple of the local coal operators that have had some other additional legal expenses and other things going on as a result of that. So we want to make sure that if there's additional expense that's incurred, I mean, I agree with the economic development component of it, I mean, because we've been working on the Heritage Trail and different things for the communities, but I just want to make sure that it's balanced with the cost and expenses of the communities and the municipalities and the services, and there's money that's coming off of those fees back into the municipalities to cover those services.
John, do you want to address more coordination of trails?
Yes, I mean, in terms of coordination of trails, the county is completing a greenways and trails plan for the county, and that's the big picture where that interconnection would take place, and recommendations for making those connections would be addressed.
And I think if there's a specific consultant that you're dealing with right now that you think that we need to be in touch with, if you can get us that information, that would be helpful.
I'm happy to be in touch with those.
Okay.
I forwarded them the information already.
Okay.
The Lower Anthracite Trail, the proposal for the Lower Anthracite Trail is the Greenway in part, and that will be out for draft.
Hi.
interested in, on your chart there, you had for the equestrian trails that you had 15 miles of equestrian trails. Is that a shared use trail, or is there an actual set amount of miles that you have set aside just for the horseback riding?
I can answer that. The 15 miles was to be dedicated equestrian trails, and then with the addition of the mountain biking trails, those would be the multi-use trails that would be open also to equestrian hiking and mountain biking. That's what we've proposed, yes.
I've only had one question all along. When? This is a thing that really should happen. I'm Dick Lepley. I'm the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Off-Highway Vehicle Association. And we represent ATV and dirt bike riders all across the Commonwealth. Our avid support for this project is already well documented. Clearly, PAOHV members will benefit by having access to this incredible riding area. But equally important is what AOAA will do for the region. First, everyone in this county will benefit from the economic platform created by the AOAA. History has shown that every time a major OHV park opens, local businesses thrive and people find work. I've been in business now for 43 years, and like you, I'm struggling to stay ahead of the current economic climate, which is one of the worst I've seen. As you know, Northumberland County's April unemployment number hovered at 8.2%. Nearly a point above the state figure and much closer to the national average. The AOAA will serve to reduce that number. What's being planned here will, on a smaller scale, rival the Hatfield-McCoy system in West Virginia, where over a 10-year period, retail sales climbed 25%, total payrolls increased 10%, property values rose as did tax revenues to local governments. We can expect similar results here. The comment of a friend of mine who lives near Hatfield-McCoy really sums up the value of the AOAA. He's now involved in 4 separate businesses as a result of the trail system, and he told me he never dreamed he would have the chance to be a part of multiple successful business ventures. Such is the power of motorized recreation. The AOAA will also showcase the amazing heritage of this region by preserving the history that in large measure turned America into a world power. This and the park's varied multi-use potential will make the Anthracite outdoor recreation area a must-see destination and will be an economic engine for generations to come. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christy. I just wanted to leave a comment that I got to go out on the trails about 2 weeks ago, and I've done many things in my life. I walked up a waterfall, I jet skied on the Caribbean, and this was one of my favorite experiences I had, and it's right here in my backyard. I was so happy to have done that, so that's all I wanted to say.
I just have a problem with sharing the trail with mountain bikes when you're riding a horse. They don't always go together. You can have a lot of trouble, somebody's going to get hurt.
The question was asked earlier indicated that there would be 15 miles of dedicated equestrian trail that would be horseback riding only, so that would meet your needs. Are there any other questions? Okay, with that, a couple more.
If the county decides to go through with the project, is there an environmental phase that you have to go through? And also, if once that's completed, how long for the construction phase to build the trails, the security fences, and the visitor center, et cetera, et cetera?
In terms of the environmental phase, of course, there will be environmental phase that we need to go through. That's already been initiated through the master planning process. We've contacted the resource agencies, and they're scheduled to come out and take a look at some of the sites this fall. That process will continue through next spring. In terms of designing and getting through construction, Normally it takes about a year from initiating the design process, getting through the construction document preparation, putting it out to bid, and then actually having a facility that's ready to go at that point in time.
At the earlier meetings, you mentioned something about a bridge or a tunnel joining the two properties together for 125. I was just wondering if you still have anything in the works for that, or if that was scrapped.
Yeah, no, that hasn't been scrapped. That's part of the long-term plan. Certainly there's an expense associated with creating that. It does address a safety issue. It's a funding issue. If we can secure enough funding to get that in on an earlier phase, then that could occur at an earlier point in the process. But upon the initial development of phase one, that's not included in the first phase of development, but in future phases.
Hi, I took a little time this afternoon to try and go through the 333 or so pages of the proposal, which I have to say you guys have really done your homework. My congratulations on that stuff. If I interpreted it correctly, there's a lot of people who ride locally with off-road buggies and qualify as an off-highway vehicle, full size. Okay. And after trying to go through that, my mind's spinning. Will it be a Reader's Digest version, or is there one chapter I can refer people to kind of get the meat and potatoes?
There will be an executive summary with the final version of the plan. Okay, this is the last call for questions. With that, we'd like to thank you. I know many of you have taken time, not only tonight, but for the two other meetings. We really appreciate that. We hope that we've responded in a fashion that can accommodate all the needs, all the concerns, and really present and take advantage of all the opportunities that such a facility can offer to this area. So again, thank you very much for attending.